Do you want to achieve your desired PTE score but not getting it even after number of attempts? Join our online PTE course, where you can get valuable tips and strategies by experts. Also, you will be provided with new and updated bulk practice material with rigorous practice sessions and feedback. For more details, contact on given WhatsApp number. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Telegram.
The ability to focus on where we will be in the near future, rather than where we are at present, may be a key characteristic of the mammalian brain's built-in navigation system, suggests a new study. The researchers wirelessly tracked the brain activity of flying Egyptian fruit bats, finding that neural activity in the bats' hippocampuses more strongly represented future locations than current locations.
Having a home near a busy airport certainly has its perks. It is close to many establishments and alleviates the problem of waiting through endless traffic to catch flights. But it does come at a cost, tolerating the jarring sounds of commercial airplanes during landing and takeoff. Researchers have now conducted a computational study that validates using a shape memory alloy to reduce the unpleasant plane noise produced during landing.
The Roman state was tested almost to destruction by the defeat at Cannae by the Carthaginians led by Hannibal, and according to the historian Polybius, it was only what he called the peculiar virtues of the Roman constitution that allowed it to survive this crisis.
Surgical site infections are caused by bacteria that get in through incisions made during surgery. They threaten the lives of millions of patients each year and contribute to the spread of antibiotic resistance. In low- and middle-income countries, 11% of patients who undergo surgery are infected in the process.
A new method for seeing through ice sheets using radio signals from the sun could enable cheap, low-power and widespread monitoring of ice sheet evolution and contribution to sea level rise.
Reserve requirements are the proportions of the deposits that banks must keep on hand and are not allowed to lend out. For example, if the reserve requirement is 10% and you deposit $100 in a bank, the bank can lend $90 of that $100 to someone else. But it is not allowed to lend the remaining $10.
You know your dog gets your gist when you point and say, "Go find the ball," and he scampers right to it. This knack for understanding human gestures may seem unremarkable, but it's a complex cognitive ability that is rare in the animal kingdom. New research comparing dog puppies to human-reared wolf pups offers some clues to how dogs' unusual people-reading skills came to be.
Modern science says, the sun is the past, the earth is the present, the moon is the future. From an incandescent mass we have originated, and into a frozen mass we shall turn. Merciless is the law of nature, and rapidly and irresistibly we are drawn to our doom.
Researchers have successfully developed a speech neuroprosthesis that has enabled a man with severe paralysis to communicate in sentences, translating signals from his brain to the vocal tract directly into words that appear as text on a screen.
Having the same dream again and again is a well-known phenomenon. Nearly 2/3 of the population report having recurring dreams. Being chased, finding yourself naked in a public place or in the middle of a natural disaster, losing your teeth or forgetting to go to class for an entire semester are typical recurring scenarios in these dreams.
CT scans for patients with concussion provide critical information about their risk for long-term impairment and potential to make a complete recovery, findings that underscore the need for physician follow-up.
From a child's point of view, what is the purpose of TV advertising? Is advertising on TV done to give actors the opportunity to take a rest or practice their lines? Or is it done to make people buy things? Furthermore, is the main difference between programs and commercials that commercials are for real, whereas programs are not, or that programs are for kids and commercials for adults?
The second dose of a COVID-19 vaccine induces a powerful boost to a part of the immune system that provides broad antiviral protection, according to a new study.
As a child, you might dream one day of becoming an astronaut, and the next day, of becoming a ballet dancer. The possibilities are endless. Eventually, this wealth of choice is whittled down by external circumstances and internal interests. Similarly, precursor cells in early embryos make a series of stepwise decisions, governed by external forces and internal factors, to generate the diverse array of cell types present in adult organisms.
An RNA modification may offer protection against non-alcoholic fatty liver, a condition that results from a buildup of fat in the liver and can lead to advanced liver disease, according to a new study. The modification may also explain why females tend to have higher fat content in the liver.
Seismology is the scientific study of earthquakes and the propagation of elastic waves through the Earth or through other planet-like bodies. The field also includes studies of earthquake environmental effects such as tsunamis, as well as diverse seismic sources, such as volcanic, tectonic, glacial, fluvial, oceanic, atmospheric, and artificial processes such as explosions. A related field that uses geology to infer information regarding past earthquakes is paleoseismology.
When it comes to making eggs, female flies and female humans are surprisingly similar. And that could be a boon for women seeking better birth control methods, a researcher reports.
An economic depression is a period of sustained, long-term downturn in economic activity in one or more economies. It is more severe than a recession, which is a slowdown in economic activity over the course of a normal business cycle. Economic depressions are characterized by their length, and by abnormally large increases in unemployment rate.
A 17-year study in Oregon, Washington, and California found that removal of invasive barred owls arrested the population decline of the northern spotted owl, a native species threatened by invading barred owls, and the loss of old forest habitats.
History is selective. What history books tell us about the past is not everything that happened, but what historians have selected. They cannot put in everything. Choices have to be made. Choices must similarly be made about which aspects of the past should be formally taught to the next generation in the shape of school history lessons.
Babies who were breastfed, even for a few days, had lower blood pressure at 3 years of age than children who had never been breastfed. Toddlers who had been breastfed had lower blood pressure regardless of their body mass index or their mother's social, health, or lifestyle factors.
Nell says that, in order to seek protecting from their furry foes, birds actually prefer to build their nests in plots of swamp with a resident alligator. In fact, in one study a graduate student planted fake alligators. The birds seem to prefer to build nests close to them. Where there's a water source, there are alligators, so it's sort of this mode of protection around these colonies.
Researchers have developed a cell culture test to detect substances that are directly or indirectly harmful to embryos. Based on an existing test used for developing new drugs and chemicals, the augmented version is designed to help reduce the number of animal experiments. Over time, a split would have appeared in wolf populations, he says, those wolves that fear humans and those that didn't. So this would have facilitated, I think, the domestication process. At which point humans deliberately took wolves as pets. But that domestication process, France says, may have happened more than once, first in the West, in Europe, and again in the Far East, in Asia.
Researchers have discovered that spontaneous impulses of dopamine, the neurological messenger known as the brain's feel-good chemical, occur in the brain of mice. The study found that mice can willfully manipulate these random dopamine pulses for reward.
A ubiquitous neurotransmitter that carries signals between brain cells, dopamine, among its many functions, is involved in multiple aspects of cognitive processing. The chemical messenger has been extensively studied from the perspective of external cues, or deterministic, signals.
As a newborn mammal opens its eyes for the first time, it can already make visual sense of the world around it. But how does this happen before they have experienced sight?
Previous research has offered circumstantial evidence that Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, contains more water than all of Earth's oceans. However, temperatures there are so cold that water on the surface is frozen solid. Ganymede's ocean would reside roughly 100 miles below the crust, therefore, the water vapor would not represent the evaporation of this ocean.
Researchers have been able to use seismic data to look inside Mars for the first time. They measured the crust, mantle, and core and narrowed down their composition.
Current research models indicates that climate change associated with increasing levels of greenhouse gases is likely to lead to the soils in the interiors of the major continents drying out. In response to a drying of cropland, people are likely to seek either new sources of irrigation water or new, wetter areas to farm. If we choose desalination of seawater as a possible solution, large amounts of energy will be required.
Researchers have recently identified a DNA region known as VNTR21 that appears to drive the activity of the telomerase gene, which has been shown to prevent aging in certain types of cells. Knowing how the telomerase gene is regulated and activated, and why it is only active in certain cell types, could someday be the key to understanding how humans age and how to stop the spread of cancer.
Much of today's business is conducted across international borders, and while the majority of the global business community might share the use of English as a common language, the nuances and expectations of business communication might differ greatly from culture to culture.
The speaker reminisces about his views of the English Revolution when he was a student and how it seemed quite clear which side he was on, the aristocrats, not the Puritans. Later he realized there was more to it than that, and there were several ways of interpreting the revolution: as a struggle between the king and parliament, as a class war, or as an unpredictable situation without clear sides.
Finally, the experimenters examined real insects. To see if leg adhesion might also play a role in the walking coordination of real flies, they put polymer drops on the flies' legs to cover their claws and adhesive pads, as if the flies were wearing boots, and watched what happened. The flies quickly began to use bipod-like leg coordination similar to the one discovered in the simulation.
Astronomers have developed a new way to capture all the exquisite, layer cake, details of a brown dwarf's cloud structure. Because brown dwarfs are similar to superjupiters, this innovative technique can help deepen scientists' understanding of the atmospheres of giant alien worlds that are more massive than Jupiter.
Research on a newly discovered bird fossil found at a unique brain shape may be why the ancestors of living birds survived the mass extinction that claimed all other known dinosaurs.
Treating obese mice with the cytokine known as TSLP led to significant abdominal fat and weight loss compared to controls. The animal model findings support the possibility that increasing sebum production via the immune system could be a strategy for treating obesity in people.
A combination of a once-debunked 19th-century identification of a water-carrying iron mineral and the fact that these rocks are extremely common on Earth suggests the existence of a substantial water reservoir on Mars, according to a team of geoscientists. Researchers document how the technique quickly produces arrays of highly active, carefully tuned nanoparticles with remarkably uniform properties that can be compared and tested for use as catalysts, far more quickly than traditional wet lab methods.
Eating a plant-centered diet during young adulthood is associated with a lower risk of heart disease in middle age, according to a long-term study with about 30 years of follow-up. A separate study with about 15 years of follow-up found that eating more plant-based foods that have been shown to lower cholesterol, called the portfolio diet, is associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease in postmenopausal women.
A new study identifies DNA signatures associated with risk for cardiovascular disease, a discovery that could lead to opportunities for clinical intervention years before symptoms manifest.
Researchers have announced successful results of a clinical trial for a commonly prescribed weight loss drug called liraglutide. In adults who are overweight or have obesity combined with high cardiovascular risk, once daily liraglutide combined with lifestyle interventions significantly lowered two types of fat that have been associated with risk to heart health: visceral fat and ectopic fat. Fewer than 1 in 20 children with symptomatic COVID-19 experienced symptoms lasting longer than 4 weeks, and almost all children have fully recovered by 8 weeks, a new study has found.
The dual beneficial effect of physical activity in depression is confirmed by a new study. Physical activity not only reduces depressive symptoms, it also increases the brain's ability to change.
Using data from two large, long-running study projects in the Puget Sound region, one that began in the late 1970s measuring air pollution and another on risk factors for dementia that began in 1994, researchers identified a link between air pollution and dementia.
The human brain holds the secret to our unique personalities. But did you know that it can also form the basis of highly efficient computing devices? Researchers recently showed how to do this, through graphene diamond junctions that mimic some of the human brain's functions.
A major Atlantic Ocean current, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, may have been losing stability in the course of the last century, according to new research. A potential collapse of this ocean current system could have severe consequences. Last year, researchers reported that reductive stress, an imbalance in the normal oxidation/reduction homeostasis, caused pathological changes associated with heart failure in a mouse model. Now, researchers describe the putative molecular regulators of this pathological chronic reductive stress, a microRNA network.
Intense blooms of toxic algae are becoming common occurrences along the coast of Florida and elsewhere. Results from a new study found that wearing the face mask everyone has become accustomed to during the COVID-19 pandemic may help protect against these airborne toxins too.
A team of researchers has developed an immunotherapy strategy that can eliminate pancreatic tumors in mice. The new therapy, a combination of 3 drugs that boost the body's immune defenses against tumors, is expected to enter clinical trials later this year.